in this dialogue of confrontation. Who are the scribes and the Pharisees? What about our people? And I started talking with the ringleader, the man who was heading this group up, who looked frightened out of his mind, and I can understand how he was. It was just a horrendous din and noise and people saying incredible, horrible, terrible things, threatening things, and we were just standing there, and he says to me, this is terrible, this is blasphemy, and these people are saying terrible things, and I said, I know. I don't approve of what they're saying or how they're saying it. And he just kind of looked at me, and he looked in my eyes, and I thought I'd just hold on to his eyes with my eyes. I knew he was frightened, and if he could crawl into my lap, he probably would. He was scared to death. And so we started talking, and we started talking about the Bible, and I could see it unnerved him when he realized I knew something about the Bible. We're talking and debating, and I said to him, what you don't understand is that people you associate with are associated with the people who have caused so much pain and suffering in our community. And if you don't take responsibility for that, and if you don't understand what message that brings to our people, you will never be heard. If you want to be heard by people about the love of Jesus, this is not the way to do it. And why are you doing it here, not in your own neighborhood? We have our churches and synagogues, and and we're reaching out, and what is it, and so we started talking and dialoguing, and this guy had been very dishonest. He'd been tape recording conversations all night long and saying he wasn't. They refused to acknowledge the group they were from. They just happened to come along and be on the street and be preaching there, and all this stuff was going on. And our people getting more and more enraged, and there was all this stuff going on. But I could see that as we kind of split up, Richard and myself and Joseph, and we took a few of these people at a time, and everybody else was sort of backed off, and we formed this barrier, and we really were there probably to protect the fundamentalists more than anything, which was very bizarre. I didn't know that was going to be happening. But within less than an hour, the man I was talking to said, well, it's almost 12 o'clock, I think we're going to go. And one of the people said they always stay here for 3 or 4 hours. They're leaving 2 hours earlier. And so suddenly everyone was elated. They read about something we'd done. We'd done this wonderful thing and gotten rid of these fundamentalists. And I know it wasn't anything we'd said to them in particular. It was about diffusing the situation in some ways and bringing God into the situation in a new way. And they began to leave, and a lot of the gay and lesbian people, they didn't want them to leave because they were sort of, getting into this, expressing their rage and anger and all of this, and we had to protect them as they were getting into the cab. They were trying to leave. All my struggles with what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What does all of this mean? And then the most poignant thing happened, I think, of the night. I hear all these people, and they were saying terrible things, even about God and Christianity and the Bible and all of this kind of stuff, but there I am in a collar, and they loved me, it was like, this was great, and some of them had been to MCC before. They came up to me and they said, well, did you convince them? Did you convince them that we were right? And I was just amazed to realize that these kids really did want me to convince these people that we were loved by God and okay, and I thought, and they picked an awfully strange way of doing that. They were having these temper tantrums, and saying these horrible things to convince people that we're lovable and loved by God. And I realized that for a lot of the people who were out on the street that night, perhaps it was like those fundamentalists were like their parents or people somewhere that they wanted to convince that they were okay, and they're just infuriated, and they wanted me to come along and set their parents and these people, right about what's happening. And I saw the hunger and the need and the spiritual need that was there in this group of very young people. And I knew that Jesus loved them. And I knew that Jesus loved those fundamentalists who are have a very narrow and limited faith, and who I'm sure were very, very affected and hurt and troubled by what they'd been through that evening. But I knew that as I had eye contact with that man, he knew that something was happening. He said, I don't doubt that you love God, and I don't doubt that, and I don't understand. And I could see him struggling and struggling with what the whole of this meant. As Jesus confronts the Pharisees and the scribes and the wounded people of his day, he was saying, what kind of a religion are we? What kind of a God is it that we're preaching? Is the Sabbath God? Is the law God? Or is God God? And Jesus was saying that those who come in the name of God and with the authority of God have to be able to see beyond sometimes even the traditions and even the things we think that we hold so sacred, and to see that the Sabbath was meant to be a gift so that people could have the time to know God. It was not meant to be an impossible burden on their lives. And in this I see that Jesus saw several things about healthy and good religion. One, healthy religion importance of human need and hunger, and that it does not judge people for being hungry or needy or having normal human needs, and that when religion represses human needs, obsession is the result. And it's a dangerous and terrible thing that has happened in our culture. I had a friend years ago who was a student clergy in my church, and she's a recovering drug addict, and she met a friend who couldn't get his supply of drugs, and it was Christmas Eve, and he was dying. He was on withdrawal, and he was in convulsions and pain. And she said, there I was, it was snowing, it was Christmas Eve. It was terrible, she said, and I knew where I could get some drugs for him so that he could live through the night. And she said, I did something I hadn't done for 5 years, and I went out on the street that night and I bought drugs so that I could give it to this man. And she said, I was so worried to tell you because it was like, I was afraid I was doing something terrible, and here I am, a student clergy, and what's he going to think? What are people going to think because I went and purchased drugs? But it got this guy through the night so he could get to a hospital in the morning and get to a drug recovery place. And I said to her, I know what Jesus would have done, and I know Jesus was with you. And it wasn't about the law, it was about your heart and what you were doing. And I said, I'm proud of you because I would have known where to get those drugs, and better you than me. I would have known. I said, you were the person God meant to be there at that time, not me. You know, I would have been useless. And you were useful. God used even your addiction that you went through. God used it to meet a human need and to save that life so that maybe tomorrow could be another day. And that maybe that person could have another chance to know a God who can help them with their addiction. Our religion has to be a healing religion. If your religion is making you sick or is keeping you sick, it's not the religion of the God of Jesus Christ. And if you have to break some rules to be healthy, those rules were meant to be broken, and God is with you and on your side. Human need, healing. And Jesus said, are we supposed to do harm or to do good on the Sabbath or any day of our life? Does your faith encourage you to do good? How do you know what it means to do good? Some of us have been involved in so many things in our lives. Sometimes we're so confused about what it means to do good. But God can lead us into knowing what is good. And sometimes what is good in the moment doesn't seem to go along with the rules that we've learned in our life. But God is with us and can encourage us, because religion is not God, the Sabbath is not God, even the Bible is not God, but God is God. And Jesus says, those who follow me and who know me will in their religion be willing to meet human needs. They will be healing and they will be doing good, because that is what is at the core of religion. And Jesus says, the Sabbath belongs to God, and God says, if I want to heal on the Sabbath, if I want to save a life on the Sabbath, if I want to reach out and touch someone who may be even spewing hatred and saying they can't love God and God can't love them, but I know those people on the street Friday night who were saying even all those awful things about a God they believed had rejected them, were really hungry to know about a God who loves them just the way they are. And I know that's where we need to be. We're going to be back there on Friday nights, and some of you may be called to be with us. And if you feel like you are, call me late this week, because we're going to be strategizing and talking about that. I know that if several more of us are there with our own Bibles and loving and caring for our own people, I know that we can make a difference, because I know we probably can't get to those fundamentalists, even though some of them are gay and lesbian. You know, I know that. I know the one I was talking to was gay, and he may not know it, but I knew it. And he was scared to death in his heart, but he maybe saw some hope. Maybe that there were gay people who could also love God. And I know that those other people who were there were just hungry to hear a person who was religious, who could also have a good time with them and love them, and who didn't judge them for being who they were. And it's where we need to be, not only in here, but out there. God bless you this morning. Amen.